It's Chris Masto! Time for another video. Hit like and subscribe. You can always find the latest at masto.com. On the internet, masto.com.
Hello internet friends, Chris Masto here. Today I'm going to do some 3D modeling, and I thought we could do it together in Fusion 360. Maybe you'll learn something, maybe I will learn something, maybe it'll just be entertaining, I don't know. But I have a real world project, hard words to say, related to this thing here. So if you can see this thing, I'm kind of doing this live here, so no fancy camera angles. This is an aerator key. It is for removing the aerator from a faucet, which is this thing here that's inside the faucet. It has these little, I've dropped it on the floor. Okay, amazing. It literally vanished and took me 5 minutes to find this thing. But as I was saying, this thing has little notches around it, and that's up inside the faucet. And you use this tool to put into these notches here to turn this and unscrew it out of the faucet. You might see here on this tool, however, that it's kind of broken and mangled. This thing is super thin plastic, and when I went to take this thing out, it was stuck, and I kind of broke the tool. So I want to model one 3D printer replacement. Now before we jump into modeling, let's just think about what we're going to model. I don't need to make an exact duplicate of this design, this sort of key shape they have here. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It would be hard to do. And so you might as well design the thing for the way you're going to manufacture it. So what I need, the important part is I need to have this kind of cylinder shape with these 4 tabs sticking up from it. And I need some way to be able to turn it. So I'm thinking just simplify this to have basically this cylinder and then kind of a handle sticking out the side that you can turn it with. So that's what we're going to do. Let's jump into Fusion 360 and do that right now. Now I'm going to go relatively quickly because I like to go quickly, and this is a fairly simple thing. So we've got our new file here, and I always start by saving it so we can give it a name, and we'll call this aerator key. And check our document settings. I do want this in millimeters. I like to turn the origin on, so we've got that. Just save that again because save early, save often. Okay, and then the first thing I want to do is set up a bunch of parameters. I do parameterized modeling whenever I possibly can. So I try to think, I'm always going to forget something, but I try to think about what I'm going to need in the process of building this, every dimension that is necessary. So I guess the first thing is for that kind of cylinder aspect to it, we need to have a size. So we could either have the inner dimension and a thickness or the outer dimension and a thickness, and it's easier for me to measure the outer dimension. I've got some basic idea of what size this is, but the nice thing about parameters is you can always modify it later. So let's set an outer dimension. I'm just starting with 23 millimeters. Then we're going to need a thickness of that. Call it the ring thickness, and we can make it 1.5 millimeters. And let's see, we need the height of the ring itself. So we'll do ring height and make that like 10. And I think that suffices for the ring part, the cylinder part. I can try to hold this up here, but with the background removal, it might get confused. So we got that ring part. Then we got the tabs themselves, right? So there's the tab thickness. So that'll be something that might need to be adjusted based on printing a test, and then does it fit into the little notches, or is it too thin to print or whatever. So we'll go with a millimeter there. Then we need how many tabs are there. So tab count is going to be unitless. And In this case, my Aerator has 4 of these tabs, which seems very unusual. Then we need, the tabs have obviously 2 dimensions, right? There's a sort of the length of each tab around the outside of the cylinder, and then there's the height that it sticks up. So let's create a tab length, and that's probably like 3 or 4 millimeters. We'll make it 5. And tab height, whatever. We can make it 3 because they're wider than they are tall. But again, all of these will be calipered in the final version. I think that gives us, we got the ring, we got the tabs, we need the handles. So the handles themselves are going to be like 2 rectangles that stick out the sides, so they're going to have 3 dimensions to them. So let's call them handle. I like to use the word thickness rather than like width, because which one is the width? So we'll make it like 5 millimeters for handle thickness. We need also the handle length, which I have no idea. We can make that like 10, maybe. Again, adjust it later based on what it looks like. And then we need the handle height, which would be less than that. So we can make it like 6. Okay, so I think that we got the ring, we got the tabs, we got the handles. I feel like that's probably good to go. All right, you can always add more parameters later during the process of modeling. So now step 1, if that was step 0, is I want to draw, actually step 0.5 is always make a new component before you do anything else. I tend to forget this, but I think it's a really good idea. Because having things in the default component, I don't know, I don't like moving bodies into components after they're modeled because it screws up the timeline. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, talking and doing at the same time is tricky. So let's create a sketch. I want this to kind of be sitting on the ground. So I'm going to create a sketch on the bottom plane here. And then it's going to be a circle, right, for the ring. So we'll just make a circle that's the outer diameter. Zoom in a little bit here. And then we'll do basically the thickness, right? So we want to offset that. I'm going to hit O on the keyboard. I like to use the keyboard shortcuts so I can remember them. And then I usually drag the little dingus here to see whether it's positive or negative. Because if I have the outer diameter, I want to go inside, right? So that's going to be the ring thickness, I think. Whoops, sorry. That's the whole point of doing that was it's going to be minus ring thickness because we're going to the inside. And so now we have those contours there that form a face, so we can finish the sketch. I will hit Q on the keyboard for press pull because I'm going to extrude this. Again, give it a little tweak there just to see that it's extruding the right thing, which it is. And so that's going to be ring height. Right, so that's our ring essentially. Now I want to create another sketch on top of this ring to stick the tabs out. And again, zoom in a little bit. In this case, I deliberately made I want to make the ring itself can be bigger than the tabs. So that's why we have a second diameter, right? So I'm going to take that outside curve again and offset it to minus tab thickness. This makes sense. So what I'm envisioning in my mind, right, is I want to have a tab coming up out of that ring. The tab itself is an arc shape. It's part of the circle, right? So I'm going to draw the circle and then chop off a little section of it. So I've got that there, and then I'm gonna, and if that didn't make sense, it will make sense in a minute when you see these lines. All right, so I'm gonna draw a line. I hit L on the keyboard from the center to the top and make sure that it knows that that is a 90-degree angle there. And then I'm gonna make another line. So this is gonna make like a little pizza shape, and it's going to be coincident with the outside of this ring. I don't really care where it's positioned because I'm going to now dimension it. So I'm going to hit D on the keyboard, and I'm going to make, I could make, you know, do I want to do the distance along the arc or just a straight line? It really, this is not that precise that it matters, right? So this is going to be where my tab length comes into play. All right, so that's my 5mm tab length. And so now you can see this little segment here is going to be the tab, right? It's a little piece on the outside of the ring that's 1mm thick and 5mm across-ish. Good enough. All right, so we'll finish that sketch, and I'm going to hit Q again so we can pull that up, and that goes up to the tab height like that. So that's one of the little teeth. Now we need to make 4 of these in this case, and now I could have patterned that in the sketch and then extruded all 4 of them, but I find that patterning things in a sketch is kind of a, it can be kind of a pain because sketches don't really have the timeline, and also I want to put a fillet on here, and I want to duplicate the thing with the fillet so that I don't have to like pattern it first and then go back and fillet it in 8 different places. So I find it better to model the thing first and then to pattern the operations that created that. So let me just save here. You should save along the way. Created first tab. Now I'm wanting to call them teeth. Okay, so having said that, let's do the fillet. I think, you know, when you 3D print stuff, and I guess in general, right, it's probably a good idea to put some small reliefs on things like this. I'm just going to eyeball it, like 1mm here seems to be reasonable. I might even go 0.5 depending on what I'm doing, but let's call it 1mm for now. Okay, so now we have here one tab with fillet. So what you can do here is create a circular pattern, and over here under object type, instead of just like, we could pattern a body if we had created this as a separate body. Right now I created it combined, so there's only one body in the thing. If we expand this, usually I like to have that open anyway. What I want to pattern is the features. So this is kind of a good trick to do this, right? So I wonder if I can just click that. No. Yeah, kind of. Well, anyway, what I want to do is to select in the timeline. I got distracted by seeing what would happen if I clicked on that. What I want to do is select in the timeline the extrude feature and also the fillet. So I think I can hold down the command key on my Mac, and yeah, I've multiple selected these, right? So I've got both the extrusion and the fillet together, and I want to make 4 of those. So I can select the axis to rotate it around, which is going to be this axis that is going up here. Okay, and already we can see that it is doing the right thing. We just need to set the quantity correctly. So the quantity is going to be tab count. Could have called it num tabs or something like that. I guess everyone has their own conventions. And so now we've got 4 of those, and voila. So that will, and it will duplicate those 2 feature operations. So if we change those in the future, this will change along with it. Cool. So I'm pretty happy about that. So I think now what we need to do is to make the handles. I I've been spinning this around, so we'll go back to sort of home position. And I think to do the handles, I want to create another sketch on the ground there, if I can find it. Cool. So I'm imagining, again, the handles will just be two rectangles that stick out the sides, but we want it to be centered, right? And we want it to be a certain distance. So I think in order to do that, again, there's a million ways to do everything, but I'm going to start by making actually, I'm going to start by making a line. How about that? Doesn't really matter what order I do this in, but let's do the rectangle first. Why not? Why not? All right, so I'm going to make a dummy rectangle. I always try when I'm doing this, and I know that I'm going to be constraining it later, I try to draw the original thing in obviously the wrong place. Right, so this is not centered, and it's not sticking out evenly on both sides, and it's not the correct size. So I have to correct that all now with some sort of dimensioning. So to do that, I'm going to make a line. I'm going to go over here and make it a construction line. And I'm going to go from the midpoint of one side of this rectangle to the midpoint of the other. Because what I have in mind is ultimately I'm going to use this construction line to stick this rectangle to where it needs to go. Right, so I can do that by making the midpoint of the construction line the center here, right? And so that does two things for me. It centers my rectangle, and it also makes the rectangle even. So if I move one side of this, it's going to move the other side together because it's attached to the line, and the line is attached to the center. So that will take care of itself. So now we need to dimension the rectangle. And we know that the easy one, whoops, I had something else selected first, so I'm going to hit escape a couple times. Now we go. We know the easy part is going to be this, I think was called like handle thickness. Yeah. And avoids, for me, confusion with what the word height and width means. So we have the handle thickness, and then the other part is the handle length. So the length of the handle, as it were, is kind of how far it sticks out from the cylinder. So the dimension there that I actually want is going to be from here to the outside edge of this circle. Now we have two issues here. One is that I think the circle is not in this sketch. Well, let me see. I'll say what I did in a second. Yeah. So first thing we need to do, I'm going to back out of that, and I'm going to hit P for project, because I want to project this. Did I hit P? There we go. I want to project the outside diameter of this. Actually, hang on one second. Okay. I should say what I'm doing. So I've hidden the body, because that body was in the way. So I hid the body that was kind of not what I wanted to deal with, and I unhid sketch 1, which is the one that I put these original two circles in. So I've got my circle diameter sketch here from the outer diameter from that sketch. So I'm projecting that into this sketch so that I can use it for my convenience. Okay. So now that I've got that projected into this sketch, I can go back to what I was trying to do before, and I can make a dimension from the outside edge of the handle to, and now this is the tricky part, I could select various points, but what I really want is I want the edge of this circle. And the way you do that is right-click here, and you can choose, instead of to the center point of the circle, which is what it would want to do otherwise, I want to a tangent with the circle, right? So now it's going to actually, let me zoom in. Zooming in can help a lot here. There's a little, well, you probably can't even see it on the recording, but there's a little black X there. So I've chosen that, and you can hopefully see there that that dimension is to the tangent edge of the circle, which is exactly what I want. So we will then make this handle length. One of those things that is easier done than said. So now we've got the handle fully constrained. It's got its thickness there and its length, and of course because this is all mirrored, it's going to be the same thing on the other side. So we can finish this sketch. I can re-hide sketch 1, I can re-unhide this body so that we can now extrude up the handle, hopefully. Ooh, look at that. Not what I wanted. Let's go back and edit this sketch. Hide this body again, edit the sketch. Do you know what I did wrong? When I projected this in, I still had construction selected. Since it stays, you know, when you choose construction, it stays turned on. And so I projected that as a construction line, which it doesn't become part of a face. And so I would only have been able to extrude this whole rectangle. But now by selecting it again and turning off construction, it is now a real line. And so we can now go back to where we were and hit Q again. And yeah, now I can actually select that piece. And I can also select this piece. And then we can extrude these up to their height, which is whatever handle height is. Handle height. There we go. So that's basically the tool. Now, we want to clean it up a little bit here, which, you know, for me usually involves putting a bunch of fillets on everything. So to make it look pretty, let us fillet this. And we can do, let's do these edges here and bring them in. In fact, what we can do here is a formula. I want to bring this in a lot because I kind of like that look, right? So rather than have to adjust this, if I adjust the handle length, I can make this actually handle length times 0.6, 0.7, 0.8. I think I like 0.6. So we'll make that, you know, 60% of the handle length. So if I go in here and tweak this, maybe we actually wanted 15 millimeters, then those will get a little bit longer. So cool, cool, cool. And then to give it kind of a even fancier look, let's do another fillet and full round it over. So we'll take this and basically do that to it. Both sides, both. Why won't you let me select that too? There we go. Cool. So I've just done a full round on that. And then where it attaches to the cylinder, we probably want to fillet that as well. So one more. This is not a full round. Just do a regular. So both sides. Maybe I should have made one. I could have made one handle arm and then patterned it across, which might have been nice because it would have avoided having to you know, multiple select here. Although in this case, again, we're not going to change it to have like a different number of arms, so I'm not too worried about that. I think 1 millimeter is probably going to be good enough. This is just, again, you probably won't even see this in the finished thing, but it's just kind of to smooth out the manufacturing. I do want to leave the top with flat, sharp edges because that's kind of a surface against surface. And so I think, yeah, let's call that, I should have been saving all along, finished. So let's take a look at our work. I'm pretty happy with that. So this is the Aerator tool, and let's just check. It's always a good idea. I like to check to make sure that my parameterization is functioning correctly. So I often do that by just opening the change parameters over to the side. And so let's make some changes, right? If this needed to be Whoops, if this needed to be, let's say 30 millimeters instead of 23, that worked perfectly. Struggling to select things. 25, now we can make the ring thickness thicker, which works. The outer diameter stays the same, and then the inside gets thicker. We can make the ring height, presumably. That works. Tab thickness, we should be able to adjust. Maybe that was too thick and didn't fit into things. We do 0.5. What if we needed to make one with 6 tabs instead of 4? That all works. And so on and so forth. I could tediously test all of these, but you know, sometimes you learn when doing this that you've got some operation that messes up when you change it. But I think we're good. We already messed with the handle length, and it's just for fun here. We can do that too. Cool. All right, I think that's it. So there's the design. There's how you can kind of whip through making something like this, quick and dirty, and print it out and try to use it to unscrew your faucet. Who knows, maybe it'll snap off and you'll decide you have to make one out of metal. Hint, hint. So that's all for now. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel, and feel free to comment, like, all those things. Let me know, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Masto.com.